Hey everyone, welcome to Get Celebritized. I'm your host, Aurea McGarry, and this is the show every single week that I come to you to bring you amazing guests to talk about topics to help you earn more, live big, wonderful, vivacious legacy lives, and to be able to make so much more that you can give back even more abundantly to the people and causes that matter most to you. And many times I bring on some nonprofits to introduce to you as well, in case you're looking for some other good causes to give back to. But today I have a fabulous woman who does something that's very close to my heart, which is events. So many entrepreneurs want to put on events, great events, but they try to do it all themselves and can get into some trouble and lose on that. We don't want you to lose money on that or be frustrated. So Ella Glasgow is your angel. She can come in and help you because she's an award-winning vocalist. She's a two-time best-selling author, and she's a visionary consultant behind unforgettable virtual events. As the founder and executive producer at Beyond Virtual Events, Ella's expertise lies in crafting transformative experiences that captivate audiences and elevate brands. With her groundbreaking E.N.C.O.R.E method, she designs immersive environments, optimizing every moment for maximum impact, which is so important if you're going to do an event. Don't just try to wing it. Bring on an expert. That's always my advice. From planning to execution, Ella and her dedicated ROCKSTAR Virtual Event Team handle it all, ensuring stress-free events that leave a lasting impression. So if you've ever thought about doing your own event, or you want to dive into this world of eventing or do events better, maybe you've done them and you were discouraged, might be because you don't have Ella on your team. So let me bring Ella up here. She is amazing. She's the woman of the hour. Welcome, Ella, to Get Celebritized.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Ella, I've done so many events virtual, but my whole thing before the pandemic was my Live Your Legacy summits that were live. We did 12 of them. They were not easy. They were so strategized and so produced because I had a coach that showed me how to do this and be great at it. And into this new virtual world, I'm so glad to meet you because so many entrepreneurs want to do these virtual events now or live hybrid virtual. And I always tell them, just don't try to do it all yourself. It's just too much to take on. So I want to find out a little bit about your success story as a woman in business. But since we're on this topic, Ella, jump in and give us a couple of reasons why a business owner that's going to do an event needs you, like kind of what you do for them.
Well, I mean, you've said some of the biggest reasons in the fact that there are a lot of components when it comes to putting on a virtual event. And I will give you a recent story. I had met with someone who had already taken it upon themselves to put their event together. And they were speaking to me to find out how I might be able to help them moving forward. Now, before we had our conversation, because they'd already set up their event, I had the opportunity to go to their event to see where I could add value. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm for everybody. So I watched, and when we finally did meet, I asked her, before I tell you what I saw, tell me how you felt about your first virtual event, which she produced on Zoom, which happens to be my favorite platform. And we can talk about why in just a moment. But her first words out of her mouth was, oh my God, there was so much. We thought that just because we have meetings and stuff on Zoom all the time, that it should be really simple and easy to do. And like, boom, we'd have an event. And that's just not the way that it is. It's
It's
so
like saying I watch TV so I can produce a TV show.
exactly, exactly. I say it's like walking into the Hilton and saying just because they showed you an event space, ballroom, that suddenly, okay, it's an event now.
Right, exactly. Well, my viewers love to know more about the people that are in business that come on my show. So tell us a little about your background. How'd you get into this space? Do you love it? Do you tolerate it? Is it your dream? Tell us a little bit about you.
So I am a performer by trade. I've been a professional entertainer for over 20 years at this point. I've stopped counting. And
You're a
when
singer, right?
I am a professional singer. I am a professional singer. So
I love
my goal back in 2005, I wrote a business plan. And the business plan was 16 pages long. And I I said I wanted to be a production and have a production company and a production and coaching company specifically is what I said. At the time, I didn't know how to build a production company, or rather, I didn't have the money to build a production company. 2005, I was 26 years old, and I didn't know about how to get the funds, the $250,000 it was going to take to build that production company. So I coached because I knew how to coach. And at that time, I was coaching singers, and I knew how to do that, helping them with their careers and helping them with their voices. And then came 2020.
Hmm.
And 2020 said, girl, what if I told you how you could build that production company for free? I said, what, 2020? Tell me. and it wasn't all the way free, but it wasn't $250,000 to build it.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, how did you do that? What are some of the steps you took to build this free? Because you had a dream and you were able to bring it into fruition.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there's somebody, I've told her this several times before, somebody that you and I have both worked with before, Molly Mahoney. I told her at the beginning of this that had I not worked with her, I would have never seen this door, because she was the one that forced me, and I do mean it. She forced me in 2015 to get online. And while I had been coaching online before that, I had not been really utilizing some of the other tools, video online. And so that's what I did. And it was because I had been online for so long and doing some of the things that Molly had been showing me with video, I was able to see that door. And when it came to building out virtual events for others, because of my background of being in productions for as long as I have been, and being that person that was not just in production, because Aurea, that just because you're in something doesn't mean that you've been paying attention to how the something was done.
For sure. It's a difference between being in front of the camera, behind the camera.
Exactly. And I was the person that was always in the sound booth asking, what are those buttons you're pushing? How did you make that happen?
Asking the right questions. It sounds like a John Maxwell. I think it was John Maxwell book on that. To ask the right leaders, ask the right questions to the right people.
Yeah. So that's really how it all came together. And I realized that my secret sauce, because there are so many others that are producing virtual events. I'm not the only one.
We need a lot, though.
Right?
You can't do everybody in the world.
I can't. I'm sorry, I don't have the 1,000,000-person dream.
Who is your ideal client, though? Because that's a great segue to knowing your niche. So do you have a specific client that is your ideal client, or do you just work with as many as you can, first come, first serve?
Right. So in the beginning, it was whoever came to me, because we didn't have time to figure out our ideal client. We were too busy.
Right.
There too many people were coming. So, but when I had the opportunity to sit down and see and really review the majority of the events that we were producing, at the beginning, it was all corporate, and a lot of it was government.
Okay.
Right. But I started getting a lot of questions and requests from entrepreneurs. And at the time that they were asking me, I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to take my team off of track of what we were already doing. And so finally, at the beginning of this year, I said, let me sit down and think about how we'd be able to help entrepreneurs, specifically established small businesses, to be able to elevate their brands with virtual events in the way that we were doing for corporate, but not at the same cost.
Nice. That was going to be one of my next questions. Can you scale it down for the entrepreneur? It's always on a smaller budget.
Right.
So that's great. So what are some of the things that so your niche is then entrepreneurs. So now, but you can do corporate still. So do you rather work with men or women, or is there any kind of special type of event that's kind of your favorite, whether it's weddings or if it's networking or TEDx or something? Well, TEDx is a different ballgame, but do you have any kind of favorites on that note?
No, I don't necessarily have favorites. I have things that I won't do.
Like what? Oh, that's good. Okay, let's do that. What won't you do? Let's get rid of that right away.
So when it comes to the types of people that I work with, I won't work with people that don't have the ability or won't allow me to do what it is that I do. And by that, I mean that they just want to do it their way. And if you wanted to do it your way, then why are you coming to me?
What's the biggest mistake? 'Cause I know it's not so much, you're not trying to tell them how to do it, but you're saying it for a specific reason. Like if you do it this way, you won't get the results you're looking for. So what
Exactly.
are some of those mistakes that they might be thinking, oh, I want to do it my way, but you know that, oh, that's a mistake. Tell us some
Right.
of those mistakes.
Right. So here's a mistake. And I'm going to go off of conversations that I've had with people that we didn't work with.
Hmm.
I had someone
One from those.
right. I had someone come to me and ask me to do their conference that they had done in person for many, many years. And the conference itself was, I want to say it was a 2-day conference. And they had sponsors and vendors and all the things, right? And as we dug into it, so I think they had about 100 vendors, sponsors.
Ooh,
okay.
That's good.
Now, that sounds fabulous until you start asking the nitty-gritty question, which is, how many attendees do you expect to come to this event? Well, we've never really ever had any more than 150. I'm sorry, what?
100 sponsors and 150 people.
Right? Are you doing the math? Ain't mathing. Somebody somewhere is going to be very upset, and it's the person that's paying you money to have a booth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is a mistake that unfortunately I see often, because while I know that you want to get sponsors and you want to have the money made in some way, shape, or form from your event, the way to do it is not necessarily meaning that you need to have 100 sponsors for 100 people, because those sponsors are going to be not happy.
Exactly.
That you're
So what is your result? Because I know I've done events, and I know exactly what you're talking about. The people that are listening and watching may not. So what would have been your advice to that person if they would have listened? How can you make that better? So let's give the audience some advice, because they're still going to need you to help execute, because no event host really should be doing it all. It's just too exhausting. So what can they do better?
So I'll tell you what we did for the client that we did work with.
Okay. You got both. Not for you, it's for you.
For the client that we did work with, they had a similar event that went over actually 3 days instead of 2. And it was an all-day event. And what we had them do, instead of having hundreds of sponsors, we asked them to focus in on the sponsorships and the vendors that made sense for their business audience. They happened to be a business event doing business trainings. So instead of bringing in the refrigerator guy because he paid some money to be, what, do I need a refrigerator for my business? I mean, maybe you do. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, too kind of like, no, if he gets a client, he's going to be lucky and he's going to be mad that it wasn't. It's also, I put this also on the booth people, the sponsor people. I tell my clients all the time, if you're going to sponsor somebody else, you've got to ask those questions too, because it's also the fault of the vendor that just said yes when they don't know how many people are coming, who the audience is. So that's their responsibility as well, because they shouldn't be paying anybody money if they don't have all those stats. Who's going to be there? Is it your ideal client? And, what is the ratio? How many were there last year? Or, what is your marketing, strategy? So it's up to, if you all are watching and listening too, and you want to be a sponsor at an event, you need to ask those questions as well, because not always does the host know what they're doing.
That.
Yeah, that. I'm thinking 100 sponsors. Didn't they all ask these questions? Like, how many people and who was at the event? Because it's so much easier. And I see this all the time. It's so much easier to be on somebody's podcast, because, that's why I train on being on the right podcast, asking those podcast hosts, who is listening to you, and not if you're in health and fitness, don't just go on a health and fitness one. I mean, yeah, you can for practice, but if you help women over 50 lose belly fat after menopause, then you need to find that audience of women over 50, because how you're helping women lose weight over 50 is very different than losing the college 15 pounds, you know? So it's such a more niche. So you're making such a great point for the vendor and for the host. Niche in that audience, you'll get the fewer but better sponsors that are the right fit, and everybody will be happy. Because if they're in a room of 100 attendees and they get 50 new clients, because they're in the right room, they're going to be happy. And you work smarter instead of harder trying to get 500 people there. That's just an eclectic group of a whole bunch of just business people. But you have more of a niche and you have the right sponsors. So you're amazing. And we need somebody to help execute that. So tell us about how you help somebody execute that.
So it's funny that we're talking about this right now, because I just had a conversation with a potential client today, and we were talking about their future event and what the possibilities are of us working together, and what we would need to do first. And this person happens to be an entrepreneur, a coach specifically, who I love working with coaches.
Great.
And
teachers, they love people. They love to help.
Right. And for her specifically, we developed a plan that will work better within her budget, because she doesn't have a huge budget for the vision that she has. And what we decided first was that we're going to do consulting first. We're going to do a month of consulting, wherein we're going to sit down and write out the entire strategy. We're going to write everything down. So by the time that we're done, she knows the tools that are needed. She knows what needs to happen before the event, how much time she needs to give everybody that's supposed to be involved in the event, what are the other pieces that might be involved. And she'll have a master checklist for what she needs to have done, so that she can decide because we're going to see all the costs, all the costs without the labor, right? She'll see everything. And by the end of the month, she'll be able to decide, do I want to move forward with this on my own? Do I want to move forward with this on somebody else? Or do I want to have Ella help me with this?
Or do I want to scale it down a bit? Because I'm so glad you do this, because so many people, the average person that does an event, back even right before the pandemic, would lose $20,000 to $25,000 because they didn't have a plan. They jumped in, they got the venues. Oh, if we build it, they will come. Well, who is they? And are you even taking thought to what the date is and who your demographics are? Is it spring break and you're trying to plan something and you didn't know, you don't really know what your area's spring break was? There's so many things to look at. And if you have that pièce de résistance, the master checklist, yes, that is so needed. And if you're affordable, and affordable is a relative term, obviously, but you're not charging the entrepreneur the corporate prices that really need that bigger team and the bigger execution, you have given another option for entrepreneurs. And I always say, you don't know unless you ask. Right. So do you have like a free, I've got your website up here, beyondvirtualevents.com. Do you have like a free consultation first to see if they are open to doing things right? And then you have that consulting price, or at least just to get that master list. Yes. Tell us walk us through that a little bit, because even if they know they can call you, they don't have to commit to it yet. They kind of want to see, should I do this? Was this good fit? Maybe I should or shouldn't do an event.
Yeah. So that's exactly what this person did. They just found me on the interwebs because they were looking for somebody to help with their event. And she went to my website and signed up for an event elevation call. And in that time, we talk about your event. We'll talk about what's going on. I'm going to ask you some questions that are going to cause you to think. And I'll tell you exactly like I told her today, coach to coach. For those of us that have been in the coaching industry for a long time, we know things are changing. And there were tactics and techniques that we were taught that I am never wanted and I'm not using anymore. So I'm going to tell you up front, I'm going to talk to you about the things. I'm going to ask you questions that are going to cause you to think, because I need you to think. And at the end of the time that we're talking together, if by the time and I'm asking those questions because I need information about the event. And I'm also formulating things while while you're telling me the answers to these questions.
It's kind of like a wedding planner. I mean, most women that's going to do any kind of wedding on a bigger scale, they're going to get a wedding planner because the bride can't do everything, or the bridesmaid, whoever has that job, can't do it all. You need that master person, that producer, that director, like we do with television, movies, that has the lay of the land. That can help you make those decisions because they've got the master list.
Right.
So it always boggles my mind when people do an event, they don't have somebody like you on their team. When if you're thinking about a wedding, you're thinking about, any kind of a fashion show or a fundraiser or, anything, an auction, anything like that. You always have somebody in charge of that.
Right.
Why wouldn't you? So
Right.
it makes so much sense. So, all right. So if somebody does, now, was that a free consultation or is that?
That's a free consultation. So
Okay.
you get to come and talk with me about what's going on. Like I said, by the end of that, you're going to be thinking about what you may not have been thinking about before, and you'll be more clear. Am I going to give you the sauce on the call? No.
No, just find out if it's a good fit for sure.
Sauce on the call, because like you just said, I want to make sure that you and I jive together. And I know that I'm not for everybody. Everybody is not my cup of tea, and I'm not everybody else's cup of tea. And I totally get that.
Yeah, you don't like who you work with for sure. And be on the same page. And I like that you will give them the master list, but they have to do the action. You're not there to do that for them, because I've worked with some people with events too. They have to be willing to do the work. They have to be able to do what it takes to market it. I would say events are not for the faint of heart, but having somebody like you by their side, it's so doable. So give us a success story, because I know if you're doing an event, I'm sure in your questionnaire you're asking, what is the goal of it? To make profit? Is this a avenue of income for you and an income stream? Or is it you don't care about making profit, but you want to sell a program or a book? Or, there's lots of different reasons people do, their event, but there's got to be money at the end of the day. Otherwise, why exhaust yourself and do all this work for no profit? Whether you're doing it for a nonprofit or to sell your programs, somewhere along the line, it has to be worth your while. Bottom line, somebody's got to make money. So give us some of your biggest success story for that bottom line ROI.
So I will tell you about our most recent client, who we have another event coming up for her next month. Oh my gosh, we're already in November.
No, we are. Hello, holidays.
It's coming up next month. So this particular client, when they reached out to me, again, a lot of the events that we do are people are translating their in-person events into virtual. Not that that's not a bad thing. I'm going to say I love it when people have things that are brand new, like this person that talked to me this morning. But this particular client had an event that they were doing in person, a networking event of sorts. And she wanted to see what would happen if they took it online, because their organization is worldwide, and they were noticing the need for them to be able to. And that's the other thing about virtual events. The virtual can't go away, because now we are well aware. It was happening before the pandemic, but now it is bright spanking in our eyes that people.
One thing that's good that came for the pandemic is going virtual, because now my clients are all over the world, and I would never do another event without the option of the hybrid virtual, because I know too many people now all over the world. I mean, I have people now, clients in Australia, in the UK, all over the place, and not everybody can hop on a plane and get to your event, but they want to be there. So why wouldn't you have this option? We think, oh, we're zoomed out. Well, you're not on Zoom every day. Don't do that. Right. But when you're going to do an event, get that Zoom going and let people from around the world have that ticket and buy your products or services. Why wouldn't you service the world?
Exactly. So this particular client wanted to do just that, and wanted to see if the concept would work online, because it's very different from some of the events that have been run like hers in the past. So we got it together in a short amount of time, and what she heard from that event, people were over the moon. People were ecstatic about it, and they got exactly what it is that they needed to get from that event. It was a confirmation for her that the service that she was offering with that particular event was absolutely needed and wanted. And so we're doing another one in December.
Now, how often does somebody do that? Because I know what hard work goes into events, because I've done them. But with you by their side, because I wish I had you by myself back then, it could be easier and not such a load. So how often could somebody do one, or would you do like every month, or is this like a quarterly thing or a semi, annual kind of event? Because with you by their side, I'm sure they can get more done. And give us kind of like your best ROI story.
Yeah. Well, everything is really dependent on the client and what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And this particular client, there are several projects that we'll be working on in 2024, but that particular event is a quarterly event. She has
Nice.
other events that we're going to be doing in between those quarterly events. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on with her particular company, but um but yeah, that particular event is quarterly. And like I said, whatever it is that the client needs, there are some people that only need um, a one-off of an event. And I say that with a caveat. And it's the same thing that I said to this particular person that was speaking to me today, who she is anticipating that this would be a yearly thing.
Mm-hmm.
If your event is a one-off and you're thinking of it as only a one-off, you're thinking of your virtual event wrong. Your virtual event, when done correctly, using the tools and tactics that I teach my clients and use myself, you will have an event that is usable long term. That
Rinse and
means
repeat.
the rinse and repeat, and you'll be able to have collateral. You'll be able to have marketing material when it's produced correctly. Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
just getting in and throwing stuff together and it looks
Can't
like
repurpose.
poop-a-doop, um, then
Oh, that was good.
you can't use that. And
Right.
I say that with a grain of salt because it
Mm-hmm.
has to do with your brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a brand that is a bit messy and nonchalant, like that's the brand that you have promoted, then you know what, go on and do that messy thing. Make it messy. Do it. But
Own it. Own
right?
that.
But if your brand needs to have a bit of elevation, and I'm thinking of some people in particular right now that even in their mess, they have still elevated the way that things look around them so that they draw more of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are people that understand the underlying mess of you because we all a mess. Look,
In one way or the other.
we're all a mess. But that doesn't mean that you have to always showcase the mess because there's an energy that gets projected in that mess that is a message that you may not want to be sending and not
Mhm.
realizing that you're sending. It's
So
chaos.
so true, so true. Now, do you help the event person, the person who wants to have the event? Do you help? What kind of things do you help them with? I know you make the master sheet, which is great. What you do pre, during, and post, all very important. Having that strategy. So when you get there, the amount of people in the room is exactly what they want to have in there because they've worked their back end. What is it? Do you help them? Because I know from doing events, the hardest part is getting those sponsors and putting butts in seats. Do you or your team help with that, or does the client have to do all of that on their own, or do you give them tools to help them? Because the hardest part, filling the seats. Will you help them do that if they want to do the event but they're not sure about filling the seats, or is that completely up to them? That's their job.
So in the past, because of the people that we worked with, that's not been a job that anyone has asked us to do. Um, save one client did ask us to do that. So when it comes to, do I have the resources for you to be able to find ways to get people into the seats? Yes, I have the resources for you. Is it something that we do all the time? No, because it's not been asked of us to be done all the time,
Right.
especially because we've done majority of government events.
Right. They already have their community. They know who's going to show up. Well, like with any big company or corporate, anybody with a bigger following, they know it's their their clients that will come. It's for them. But
Exactly.
somebody that wants to do their very first one, that's hoping to meet new people to
Right.
sell to, that could be an issue they may want. So, like, at least you have those resources.
And
When,
that's what we're doing with that potential client that I told you about that I talked to today. Those are the things that I will be showing her that are possible to be able to um, get that audience to her event, because at this point she doesn't know. Yes, she has a
Mhm.
list of 7,000 people, but she doesn't know if the 1,000 to 2,000 that she dreams of being at the first
Right.
are going to come. There are a lot of other things that go into that beyond the fact of just um, shouting it out to everyone,
Mhm.
that we're going to have to kind of drill down to make sure that they want to come.
hmm I know, being a speaker myself and going to thousands of events as a speaker, as an attendee, but especially as somebody else, a speaker, when it's really a pet peeve when the host, like the week before, it starts calling the speakers. Why haven't you gotten it out? I can't believe nobody's coming. They start whining about the low attendance. When, as a event host, I know that is my job alone. If the speakers want to shout out, then great. That's all icing. But me, myself, and I've got my numbers. I know this is who I'm going to make sure is showing up. My job. Speakers speak at 100 different events all month long, like I do. It's not our job to help fill every single one we do. We're using our accolades and our expertise for you to be able to do your thing better. So, do you work with your clients and say, okay, this is our non-negotiables. This is things I do. These are things that you must take action on. And if so, have you ever gotten to like a close to a date and said, we need to push back. We need to not hold this event.
Yep. So we were working with a particular client that wanted to do a fundraiser. Again, another client that wanted to take something that they'd done in person virtual. And in the beginning, we asked them who the players were for this particular fundraiser, which happened to be like a Dancing with the Stars type of event.
No, I love that.
And they kind of hemmed and hawed about who they had as the dancers and how they wanted to do all the things. And I gave them a way to be able to make this event happen virtually. It was going to be so cool. It was
Oh,
involved.
fun.
It was going to be involving the audience as well. There was a way for them to be able to participate. It was going to be amazing.
Yeah, I want to do one.
So when we went through maybe 2 or 3 months of planning, they decided that they would take on the website portion of it, and hemmed and hawed on that. And even though I tried to help them very much with all the things, also there were 6 people in the pot.
6 people in charge. Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah. Okay. So there. Okay. Number one. There were 6 people. So then at the end of the day, they couldn't get their dancers to commit. So I said, okay, we are getting close to the wire. I can go find dancers for you because hello, I'm an entertainer. I got the connection.
Right.
Found the people for you. However, if I go get the people for you, that's going to be an extra fee because these are professionals that I'm going to get for you. They hemmed and hawed about it. And at the end of the day, we got down to the wire and I had to say, I'm so sorry, but, or actually they asked me if they could cut the event. And I said, it's fine. And I understand because you're unwilling to make decisions. We had everything for you. Everything was already set and ready to go. You had to say yes.
Right. Which is like, it reminds me of coaching. Like, we can give them all the tools to teach them how to do stuff, but if they don't take action, they don't do it, they're not good students and good listeners. And we all have to be, because there's always somebody ahead of us also giving us direction to the next step. And if your coach doesn't have a coach, then there's something wrong because school is never out for the pro. Oprah has dozens of coaches. Tony Robbins has 5 or more at any time. So nobody knows it all. There is no know it all. So as we're giving advice to somebody that we know more than they do, we can help them avoid pitfalls and help them be successful. Then it behooves us to pay us to help them get the right results that they want. So I know that your job is not easy for sure. So we talked about a little bit of the negative things that go wrong or whatever. Let's talk about what you really love to do. What is your juicy sweet spot that you just love to do for entrepreneurs to help their event be a huge success?
I'm going to quote somebody that just came to one of my shows recently who we're most likely going to be helping very soon. She said, and I quote,
okay,
man, I do some cool stuff. I mean, I got music and things on my event, but this was tight. So what I love to do is help people make their events tight.
I love it. I love it. All right, expand on that. What do you mean by tight? Well, everything flowed real good, but what was that action like? Because doing events, there's so many things on that checklist. What's your favorite part that you really know that you can help them do this, this, and this really good?
Yeah. Well, you actually got to attend one of those shows to see the tightness that she
Mhm.
speaks of.
Great
And
flow, great tightness, things running on time, ending on time, things moving along. So if anybody's not knowing what tight means, it means it is you enjoy it, everybody's winning, and there's not a lot of lollygagging and a lot of dead space and technical issues and things that are going wrong. It's tight, it's moving, it's great. Everybody is having a good time. They're getting what they want out of the event. So tight is really, really important. So
yes,
tell me some of your favorite things of results for the
I
person that might still not know what it is that you do.
yeah, I love when a client tells me that they have something that they want to do and they give me the freedom to help them make it amazing. So I will give
Mm.
you an example of a client that we had that with. They had this particular client was doing a party for their team, and they had found out just before they had that party that um, that they were never going to be in the office together again. It was going to be virtual forever. And that was a big deal because they were a tight team.
Hmm.
And not only were they a tight team, they also had some new people that were coming on to the team. And so I asked them, I said, what I would like for you to do, I want you to um, give me a saying, a something that happens, something that's going on within your team that if anybody hears it, sees it, says it, everybody knows what that means, whether they're brand new or they're old, because we don't want to exclude any, we don't want the new people to feel like, oh, there's some like, there's some clique that they're not a part of. So
Right, right.
now the reason for that was because I said, I'm going to create this party for you. It's an idea that I have that I've just been waiting to try on somebody. Will you let me do it? And she
Ooh.
said, yeah, do it. So what it happened to be was I call it You Paint It Bingo.
Oh, you had me a bingo. All right, what is it? I love
So
to
what I
paint, so let's do this.
did, right? I commissioned if You Paint It Nights and Bingo had a baby, this is what this was. I commissioned an artist locally and asked her to envision this phrase that they gave me. And I can't remember what the phrase was at this time, but I said, here's the phrase. I want you to create a painting around this. The painting that she created was absolutely gorgeous. I took that painting and the client and I decided that the original painting, which was quite large, would go to the main office while we created posters for the team. And what happened was we sent them a kit. I created a kit for them that was bits and pieces of the painting. Nobody had the full painting in the beginning.
Like a puzzle.
So
Oh,
they were painting some people, and it was in their brand colors, which happens to be like blue, aqua, and purple.
okay.
So they were painting all these things, and it was hilarious. Some of them were like, I have a whole blob of purple. I don't know what I'm doing here. So we get to the end, and she and I are like laughing it up with each other because we know what's going on. So then we get to the end, and I show them, I said, I know that this may have been a crazy journey. We had fun along the way. And also know that soon you all will not be in the same rooms ever again. And I want you to remember today. I want you to remember what you've created today. And while it may look like something crazy and not put together, much like you will soon be, you actually are all a part. And what you've created, what you've painted, is part of a whole. And this is what you painted. And when I showed them the entire painting, they were like,
Wow. Tears.
and she told me after that event that when their next meeting, after they'd received their paintings, they all had it in their frames behind them.
The
And
virtual screen would be great. It looks all together on Zoom.
it reminds them every single time that
What a
they're
great idea.
never not together.
Oh my gosh, I love that idea. Wow. So you have a real gift at helping do things outside of the box. Kind of like team things, when people go away and they do these team building, events, and they think of cool things to do to build the team camaraderie. So knowing you've got that in your toolbox too, you're not just an entertainer, an event specialist, but you can come with some really cool ideas. As long as the event host says, "Here's my goal, here's what I want to accomplish," that I can just see your juices flowing with these. If they would let you be creative and be out of the box, because that's what you need to do in virtual events. You got to bring something different to the table. Because if people want to go to an event and they hear Zoom event or virtual, most people just say, I don't want to sit there for 3 days. But if you've got some great, fun things, interactive things to do to get the results that they want, they will show up, they will stay, and they will keep coming back for more. Because I've been to so many 2 and 3 day events and showed up every single day because it was that good. And
Exactly.
they made us feel really engaged. It wasn't just us listening to another speaker. You can't just do that. It's gotta put more effort into it to do the virtual. And if you're doing a hybrid, I know it'd be really important to have you there, because if some of you all are there networking in person, I've been to ones that you feel like everybody just forgets you. Sound
Exactly.
isn't even good. People stand in front of the camera. It's like, hello, we're here.
Yeah.
And I've been to another one, which everybody in the room came around to the camera and talked to all of us there sitting on Zoom. We felt like we were part of the room. We used the chat. There was somebody monitoring the chat. We're putting in our networking, our phone numbers. It was amazing. It was worth every dime.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
have
so
to be able to, Zoom got a bad rap. Unfortunately, unlike Google, which now we use as a positive phrase, we're going to Google it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Zoom got the bad end of the foot with that. Now people say Zoom, and it means it's a bad term.
Right.
And Zoom is not the problem.
Uh-uh.
I said at the beginning of the pandemic,
Right.
Zoom is not your issue. And if you've been in any meeting with me, you've seen the video that I have when you come into Zoom. It says Zoom is not your issue.
Right. With everything else.
The platform is never your issue.
And at least you're not promoting it as come to my Zoom event. I mean, that would be a failure. You're saying come to my virtual event. And virtual, it doesn't matter what tool you use to bring everybody together. You could be using StreamYard or Wave or a million other ones. There's a whole bunch out there. But Zoom is so user friendly. So you're not doing another Zoom meeting where it's boring. So you're doing a virtual event. You get a great title, a great reason to be there with the results that your community wants. And again, I can't emphasize enough, being a host myself, being a speaker myself, being an attendee. I love events. Events are something that just helps me thrive in my business in so many different ways. And I've seen good, bad, and ugly. Having somebody like you would be just worth every dime. It will save you headaches, save you stress. It'll actually save you money, and you will earn more money. And I haven't even worked with Ella personally, but I know because I've been to her events. I've gotten to know her now. Just tapping into her brain on how she's working this. I know events, and I say, yeah, that's what's needed. That's what's needed. I know she's got it going on. She will run it tight. I can tell. And it won't be long before she will be helping me do that, because it's so important that you can be you and do what you need to do as a host, and let somebody like Ella come in and connect all those dots, so you will come out highly profitable. Because at the end of the day, who wants to do all that work and owe money instead of earning money? Because I don't care what you say, it's at the end of the day, you need to be profitable, especially for your business, unless this is a hobby. And if it's a nonprofit, you need to have that bottom line to how much did you raise for the nonprofit. Otherwise, it's a lot of work for nothing, and you might probably won't do it again, and you'll think you failed. So
Right.
I encourage people to listen to you. So as we come to the last 10 minutes of the show, tell us in a nutshell some of the best things people can do as an entrepreneur that events will do for their bottom line, their ROI, their business. Why should they do events? What can you do for them? Tell us what you want us to know about the event industry, this new virtual event industry as well, that can really help business owners and entrepreneurs, and not just for the government anymore. All of us.
So I'm gonna say something that, let me pull this up, because this is something that I've been wanting to say for a while. And I keep saying I'm going to, how you have post ideas and you say that you're going to post the things, and you have a note. If I could show you the length of this note of all of my all of my ideas, we're going to say it now because
Okay, let's do it.
so in a little nutshell, and the idea was exactly what you're asking me about. You know, the largest brands have recognized the power of virtual events to elevate their brands. And my question is, why haven't you, as a small business owner? Why haven't you taken the time to recognize how powerful this platform of being online is? You may have a blog, you may have your social media, but if you're not using the power of video is the absolute key and linchpin in the whole piece of your marketing funnel. I was watching a video yesterday about was it a video? Oh, it was a meme, and somebody was commenting on it. It was I can't remember her name. Kathleen O'Hara, is that her name? She was one of the ladies of Star Trek. She was like the first Black woman, I believe, on Star Trek. And it was her like walking backwards. But someone said something about Nat King Cole in the comments, because somebody said, you know, she's the first Black woman, blah, 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 all these things. And somebody said, well, Nat King Cole, da, 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 he was the first. He had his first television show. And they were like, yeah, but he wasn't a woman. But what he did do first, and this is important, what he did first, according to this, I haven't done all the research yet. Aurea, you maybe tell me about
it. Allegedly, right? We like the news.
It's still important. So what they said he did first was that he was the first person on television to look at the camera. Why is that important? And what does that have to do with your virtual events and video live streaming in general? The fact that he looked at the camera changed the game on TV and the relationship that the audience had with the person on the show. Because when we're talking to people, we're looking at them in their eyes. We're building that connection, that trust. That's how we know that somebody is trustworthy, because of what we see in their eyes. And when he did that, he changed the game. It meant that no longer was the audience somebody just kind of looking in on the action that was happening on the television stage. Now, are you talking to me? This for me?
Yeah.
Are you doing this music for me? And that is what you're.
They drew them in.
You can't do that with a blog. You can't do that with an audio podcast. The only way that you can see into their souls and they see back into yours is with video.
I love that. You are preaching my language. I absolutely love that. I always say the eye buys, you know, when you can see. Now, you know, like this show that I have now also is the podcast, because there are people that will always multitask, be driving, be in the gym, and they want to listen. That's great. Learn by audio. That's fabulous. But when we do things that are visual, like I've had animals on, I've had fashion designers on, I say, now, if you're listening to this, you know, on the podcast, go over to the YouTube and see. You've got to see this adorable fat possum, or you've got to see this beautiful dress. I lead them to the visual. So when you have a visual, you have that option, like we were saying before, repurposing. But I'm going to look that up. That is so good when you can look somebody in the eye and you can draw them in. They feel like they're part of your world. That's magical. And as a brand and as a business, we already know, we've heard this for years, and you don't have to tell me twice, but we need to tell everybody else. Video is king, and it just is. And when TV came along, it just kind of replaced radio shows. I mean, now people listen to, you know, audiobooks and stuff, but still people have never gone back from TV, went to movies, went from 3 channels to 1 million channels, because we love stories being told to us visually. We love to get to know our favorite brand, to get to know you, Ella, by now going to your website and going to your social media and seeing you. You know, we like behind the scenes. You want to see, you know, if you have a dog, we want to see if you're out at the park. We want to see not just work. They always say give them at least 20% of things that you like, that because they'll connect. Like people will connect with me, not always just because I teach podcasting and TV, but because I'm a huge animal lover. I got the 4 dogs and the 3 cats and the sugar gliders, and I had a kangaroo, and I'm just possums at my front door. Animal lovers will connect because we all kind of, if you're an animal lover, it's like, I know I'm going to like you already. So let them connect with you. So in this last few minutes, Ella, I think you're absolutely amazing. If you'd like to offer, anything, just talk to the audience now about if they're about to do an event to reach out to you. I put your beyondvirtualevents.com there. I love that you have a free, call where people can just kind of, talk to you about this. But let's let you get a few words in there that it's just talk to us about this platform of virtual events, virtual and hybrid live events. And is it possible? What is the time frame? They're saying, oh, I want to do one before the end of the year. Is that possible? Or should you at least have 3 to 6 months leeway?
Right. So all things are possible. So I'm going to go into my gospel phrase for a second there. All things are possible with the right budget. But if you wanted to have an event this year, do I have time in my calendar for you? Maybe. Call me right now if you need it right now, and let's see what it is that you're trying to do. But ideally, if you are doing an event that involves more than you being on the stage, and that is key. If you have an event that involves more than you being the person on stage, then I prefer to have at least 2 months. Why? Because you're telling me that you have speakers that you want to be involved in this. And speakers also have calendars and schedules. You are not their priority. You need to give them the time to be able to make sure that they have the time to be a part of the event that you want to have. So at minimum, 2 months if there's more than you on the stage.
That was great advice, something everybody really needs to think about. And you also make a great point. There are lots of events that entrepreneurs can do that could very simply, a great way to get their feet wet is to do an event where it's just them. They are the show. They are the speaker. They're the teacher, the trainer, the coach, and they're sharing with their community what they want to share to them. So then at that event, those people could buy into you or know more about you, whatever it is. Doesn't have to be a lineup of 12 speakers, especially if it's your first rodeo. So I love that you said that, because if this is something you've always wanted to do, it's so important. And then I bet, Ella, you turn this into great video repurposing, great shows. It can be turned into a podcast. You can take the audio out of there. You'll have clips for years, so evergreen for years to come, months to come. There's your social media content right now. So I know we're coming close to the end, and maybe people are thinking virtual events. They're thinking big events, lots of speakers, 100 vendors, all this stuff. But bring it back down. If you're a business owner and you're watching this, you're thinking, could an event help my business? It can absolutely do that with just you doing an event. Ella, tell us a couple tips. We've got about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to come and just be a solopreneur and it's just them teaching, give them some tips on what that could look like, what that could do for them.
Yeah. So if you are just starting out and you are trying to sort out whether or not this is going to work for you, honestly, the best way to do this is to do something by yourself, do a workshop. And that budget wise, you don't necessarily need me to be there to run the show for you. I do like to tell people, if you have less than a page of people at your event, when I say a page of people, I'm talking about on Zoom, you got less than 50 people at your event, you don't necessarily need me to be behind the scenes. What you need me for is to consult with you on how to lay the foundation. I will teach you how to run the things very easily. I promise you it will not be scary.
Simple means not complicated.
Right? Not complicated. I don't like things to be complicated. It makes me very, very sad. So I know you wouldn't believe me when you watch my events that I produce for myself. but for you,
really
super duper easy, super duper easy until you get to that point. That really does require that you not be pushing all the buttons and doing all the things. But if it's your first workshop and I'm thinking about a client that I had recently, that her workshop literally had 3 people show up. Now, I didn't have anything to do with the outreach of that, and how there were some other things that I told her we could have fixed beforehand that if I were to do it again with her. But I told her at that point, you don't need me to be here. You need me to show you how to do some of the things that I did.
Mhm.
And then when you've got 25, 50 people, more people, then I can come in.
I love it. But if you have a workshop and you get 3 people to show up and they're 3 of your ideal clients and 2 out of the 3 buy into your, $5,000, $10,000 program, it was worth it. And as we have like a minute left, Ella, I want people to tap into you for the most important thing, even if they don't utilize you live at their event, if they just want to do a workshop, but for that master checklist, I cannot emphasize enough how important that is. If you can get that from Ella, and if she takes you on as a client, just to strategize that, and then you can rinse and repeat that. You can grow that, start with 5 people, move up to 50 to 500, because she gives you that master list. You are in business that could grow and scale with that master list to do. And I just love that, Ella. Well, I hate that we're running we are out of time. You have been phenomenal. This is such a great business growth strategy for entrepreneurs, for branding, for marketing, to help people get celebritized so their community knows who they are. So Ella, thank you so much for being here on Get Celebritized. You are amazing. BeyondVirtualEvents.com. Check her out and have that free conversation with her. Have that free conversation with her. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Thank you, Ella. Until next time, get out there and earn more, live more, so you can give back more. This is Aurea McGarry signing out for now.